market adjust, and how did the VN30 and VNMidcap stock price drop? According to Aristotle research, although the PP valuation of VN30 is slightly lower than before the epidemic, the business performance has not improved much. Therefore, Aristotle research believes that the valuation of stocks in VN30 is in a reasonable area, and there have appeared some stocks in attractive price areas. Currently, inflation in many countries recording a record high within 20 years, such as EU 8.1%, USA 8.6%, UK 9.1%. In order to control inflation, central banks begin to take many measures to control inflation, such as the US Federal Reserve Fed on June 16 raised interest rates by 0.75 percentage point of the Bank of England also raised key interest rates for the fifth time in April. In Vietnam, the impact of the high oil price also caused the CPI in May to increase by 2.86% over the same period. However, food prices did not increase much, keeping inflation well under control. However, Aristotle research pointed out that 10-year government bond yield have been on uptrend since the beginning of the year and are now back to pre-COVID-19 levels. Besides, many commercial banks have simultaneously increased deposit interest rates. In terms of the stock market, after a correction in the past few months, the VN Index has discounted about 23% since the peak set in early April. Many opinions the stock valuation down. The stock has now become attractive when compared to VN Index historical PE and PP. However, the analysis team of Aristotle believes that the price cheapness of the market will be the effect and different interest rate environments. Speculative Aristotle research said that in the context of low interest rates, investors often look for investment channel other than deposit to maintain and maximize the deposit return. Besides, the low interest rate environment is also a favorable condition to support enterprise to increase production and business and take advantage of cheap capital to generate profit. Therefore, the valuation round will tend to increase in the periods of low interest rate. With such an upward trend in interest rates in the near future, Aristotle research had made specific assessment of the valuation levels of stocks in the VN30 and VNMidcap graphs using the BP method to compare the level of interest correlation between stock value and book value of the business, thereby drawing conclusion whether the valuation of stock has returned to the objective area or not. Moreover, an PP method is also more suitable than the PP and PS method because many businesses have recently experienced the peak of the business cycle or recognize one-time profit or profit may not accurately reflect the profits from core business. At the same time, in term and long-term investment, it's reasonable to take the end of 2019 as a benchmark because this is the time before the COVID-19 epidemic appeared. Business activities of the interest were still relatively low stability at present. The economy is returning to new normal and some businesses have started to record better business performance than before the epidemic. In addition, interest rate may increase in the coming period to curb inflation. Typically, investors are willing to pay a higher PP when the return on investment ROE of the business is higher. Aristotle research combined the two indicators to determine the content of the business performance into periods. The fact of the stock with a higher PP and a corresponding increase in ROE is not necessarily expensive and vice versa. The result is the VN30 group so that 13 and 30 stocks are currently recording a higher PP valuation than before COVID-19. However, only 10 and 30 businesses have recorded viable business performance. More important than in the retranslation period, looking at the entire bucket of VN30 stocks, the average BP valuation of 30 stocks is currently 2.66 times, slightly lower than at the end of 2019 at 2.7 times. However, the average ROE of 30 stocks is about 18% lower than 20.1% because COVID-19 appeared. Thus, although the PP valuation of VN30 is slightly lower than before the epidemic, the business performance had not improved much. Therefore, Aristotle believed that valuation of